concerned. But Ashish, my colleague, also with us. And the crackdown on the Popular Front of India, Ashish, is an ongoing situation as far as these agencies are concerned. The Enforcement Directorate also has been on the heels of the Popular Front for years now. They also have been charge-sheeted for cases of alleged terror funding. What has led to this early morning crackdown today? How did the agency finally decide to crack down at such a massive scale?
So, this problem of PFI, which has been in the eye of the government for quite some time, it has been brewing, and this basically deserved this kind of action. Reason being that there has been ample evidence, especially if you see the charge sheet that was filed by the Enforcement Directorate recently. It brought out various examples of how the money was basically coming into India, and it's in crores. To be really precise, almost 120 crore rupees came into the bank account of PFI, and this was basically camouflaged as genuine business transactions or genuine donations. But ultimately, where was the money coming from? The money was basically coming from UAE, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. People, they were basically district executive committees where cash was being collected, and ultimately this money was brought through Hawala channels into India. And finally, there are various bank accounts. There were around 600 sympathizers shown, and there were basically 2,600 bank accounts which was scrutinized by the Enforcement Directorate, and they found that this money was basically coming through Hawala channel through Gulf countries, and finally it was being shown as genuine business transactions or genuine donations. But ultimately this money was being used from PFI into the anti-India activities. Especially if you see in the charge sheet mentions about at least 4 or 5 incidents, especially related to anti-CAA protest. Then Delhi riots, basically there PFI was involved into inciting violence in Delhi. They were basically used, the money was basically used for social media protests as well. There were posters that were basically related to Babri Masjid that was circulated in India. Then protest against NRC and Common Civil Code. There are so many examples where PFI has been involved. I'm talking about, if you remember the Hathras case, there was a person called K.A. Rauf Sharif. If you remember, he was arrested from Mathura during the Hathras protests, and it was found that this person K.A. Rauf Sharif, in the guise of importing masks, it was an absolutely sham transaction. This money was brought from Oman. This company name is basically Race International LLC. This money came in from Oman. 1 crore rupees was transferred into the account of K.A. Rauf Sharif. But when the Enforcement Directorate tried to investigate who the owners of this company Race International is, it was found that there are 2 NRIs from India, from Kerala, and 2 Chinese individuals were the directors of this company, and it was basically camouflaged, this entire transaction. It was a sham transaction where, in the guise of importing masks, this money was brought in. And we all know that K.A. Rauf Sharif was arrested because he was trying to incite violence in Hathras as well. So there are numerous examples like this where the Enforcement Directorate has been able to bring out details in their charge sheet to actually nail PFI, where the bank accounts have been used for funding terror activities. They have been used for inciting violence in India to create social unrest. I'll talk about one more thing. There are basically, if you go through the charge sheet, it talks about a hit squad being basically, they're basically making a hit squad. It is being formed basically to target organizations like BJP, RSS. In fact, one of the hit squads was basically given the target to hit BJP, RSS on 3/12/2020. But because of the ED raid, they had no option but to postpone that attack. And where is this hit squad being basically, people are being trained? They are being trained in areas like Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, Jeddah,
Absolutely,
and then they are
that
being brought to
crackdown
India.
on the Popular
So the
Front of India
funding-
has been ongoing. The funding, how they receive it, what are they putting those funds to use for, all of that has been on the scanner of multiple agencies. And this crackdown that we are seeing today, which in certain locations began, in fact, prior to 2 or 3 a.m. this morning, is still continuing. Hours of raids have been ongoing. There have been arrests that have been made as well. And to put this in perspective of what really this means, former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, Vikram Singh, also joins us on this broadcast. Good morning to you, sir, and thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. The crackdown on PFI, the cases against them, the investigation against them has been going on for long, and so has a chorus for a ban on them. Do you think this mega crackdown today is one step in the direction of perhaps a ban on the Popular Front?
Good morning. These raids were long overdue and are very welcome. This should have happened 2 years ago, well, better late than never. Your reporter has lucidly explained the reasons of and the chronology of all their anti-national and objectionable activities. One, the anti-CEA riots, the Delhi riots, the Bengaluru riots. But what he did not mention was the rehabilitation of the illegal Rohingya refugees and also illegal Bangladeshi migrants. Involvement in terror funding, involvement in terror action, sartan se juda activities. And you may recall it is not a question of one. All the hijab disturbances of Bangalore can be traced back to the PFI, as also using infants so that they are beyond the purview of law, criminal jurisprudence, using them for raising objectionable and absolutely horrific slogans. Under these circumstances, what happened to Simi? Their cadres joined the PFI, arms training, funding. You may have heard of the Bihar Fulwari Sharif raids, and what came out of there. I would compliment the NIA and the government, but the follow-up and also the detailed interrogation, I'm sure there would be enough incriminating material to ban the PFI. This should have happened at least 24 months ago. Anyway, now that they have done their homework, because I'm sure they have deep pockets, they have funding from Oman, misusing what is known as the zakat money in the guise of educating orphans and rehabilitation of widows, misuse it for anti-India purposes.
Right.
And also Hawala channels and other illegitimate channels also using fake Indian currency, you name it, and it is in the bag of dirty tricks.
Absolutely, and that is why multiple agencies have been on the heels of the Popular Front of India for years together, and that has really culminated into this mega crackdown that we saw this morning across at least 13 states. And I request you to stay on with me. My colleagues Arunima, Ashish and Ritu also continue to be with us on this broadcast, but let's get you some breaking information as well as far as these raids are concerned. And even though there are 13 states and over 100 locations that are under the scanner of the NIA and respective state agencies, Andhra Pradesh and Kerala are the two states that are on focus. Arunima, my colleague, is getting us the very latest as far as what the focus areas of these raids are concerned. Yes, Arunima?
13 states in Kerala and districts are in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, including Guntur. These are emerging as focus states as far as these searches are concerned. What sources are telling me is that even though PFI was trying to spread its network in Bihar, for example, or in Uttar Pradesh, or even in Delhi, Rajasthan, their main area of operation continues to be down south, and that